Welcome to the Living Ageless and Bold podcast. Each episode, I bring you amazing women who inspire, educate, and share their experiences and journeys along the way. So grab a glass of wine or a cup of coffee, find a cozy spot, and let's relax and have some fun hearing what can be accomplished after 55. Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Living Ageless and Bold. My guest today, Lori Dawnolyn, is living ageless and bold. And we're going to talk about so many of you have had a story like this. You had a career. She was a model in the 90s. And then she put it all on pause to raise a family and then came back with a vengeance in her 40s. And she's now a sought-after actress and model, well known for her gray hair, which is so cool. She's one of the Silver Sisters. We'll talk about that. And it's just going to be great to hear her whole journey. So welcome, Lori.
Thank you. It's so nice to be with you today.
So you have such a story that resonates with so many people. And I always say this podcast is a judge-free zone. Whether you worked, whether you stayed home with your kids, we all did what was best for us, what was best for our family. So talk about modeling in the 90s, how you got into that, and then we'll hear the rest of the story.
Sure. So I'm in Canada, and at the time I was living in Winnipeg, Manitoba, which is the center of Canada. So it was a busy little hub for commercial and catalog work. So all of the flyers were produced there in the early 90s because it was kind of the center of Canada. So once they were produced, they could go out to the East Coast or the West Coast, equal distance. And I did that every week for probably 3 years. I've got hundreds of tear sheets from flyers and catalogs and things like that. And then I met my husband. And one thing I probably didn't even mention to you is he was in the still is in the Canadian military. So not only did I put my modeling on hold to join him at his first posting, but after we were married and had kids, pretty much my whole life has been dedicated to following his career across the country. So, when you talk
which is a lot of women.
Yes.
A lot of women did that.
Yes.
They gave up their careers to, especially with a military husband, to be a military spouse. That's kind of a full-time job.
It really is because you end up in a location where you don't have family. You're relying on friends. You're relying on the community that you build through other military spouses and by the good grace of amazing neighbors as a support network when he's gone 6 to 8 months a year. So modeling was just not something that was going to show up. And by the way, when I was doing it in the mid-90s, by the time you were 20, 21, you were kind of done. There was no career for anybody over, say, 25. So that was just something that I left in the past and went on and happily raised our family and moved across the country in support of my military spouse.
Yeah. And that's so important too, because a premise of this podcast is, hey, we're not washed up. Mm-hmm. I mentor students in college and when they hear my story of what I've done in my 50s, which is very similar, we're going to, share. I'm not modeling, but I started a whole new career in
amazing.
My 50s. Yeah. So fun. But we have those opportunities, but you're right. Back in the 90s, after, 24, you were done.
In so many ways, right? Not even in the industry, but just, it was just, it was an industry of youth.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you raised your kids. How old are your kids?
They are 21 and 26.
Okay. So check. You're just about done, right? Adulting.
Fourth year university for that last one. So we're just hoping to launch her in April and we all know that.
And let me tell you, I don't know. Mine, it's so funny. I told my kids, as soon as you're done with college, you're moving out, you're not coming home. And, the tough love. Well, then my son graduated in COVID and he had a job in New York City, but couldn't go to New York City. So we had him for 8 months living here. It was amazing. And then my daughter graduated 2 years later. And I'm like, oh, I was just kidding. You can come home. She's like, oh no, Mom, I'm good. So she found a house with her girlfriends and got a job. And I was like, no, I want you to come back. So
that's so sweet.
We try, it's like you want to launch them, but then It's hard.
It
So
is.
you'll see, but empty nest is fun. It's really fun.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah. But it's also great when they come home for visits and, we're here if they need us. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, which is so great. So now you're at this stage in your life where you're like, okay, it's time for Lori again.
Yeah, exactly.
So how did you get back into, like, what gave you the confidence to say, oh, I should try modeling again?
It wasn't confidence, to be honest. It was an agent approached me. I was 45 years old. I had just let my hair go gray probably the year previous. So I had started in like a micro pixie, and I think I had probably gotten it to a bob. And at that point, and an agent approached me and she said, I could really use women like you on my roster because it's a high demand category. And she said, I've got beautiful women in their 70s and 80s who I can call upon, but I don't have anybody in their mid 40s, 50s who have gray hair and still look youthful. Would you be interested in doing some work with me? And I said, well, sure, except, I'm now 40 pounds heavier than I was when I was a commercial model. I've got wrinkles. I don't do Botox or fillers. I'm really trying to age as naturally as I can, which is probably a whole, fork in the road for that conversation. So I said, sure, I'll give it a try. And I thought, I'm not ready to do this. This is going to be horrible. But you know what? Somebody's offering me this. Why can't I see in myself what they're very clearly seeing in me? So the kicker is, though, I went into my first casting, and of course I'm quite familiar with modeling, and the casting director said, okay, here's your sides. Are you ready to audition for your commercial? And I was like, for my commercial? You mean like for commercial print, right? And they're like, no, this is a commercial. So then I quickly realized I was in the world of commercials, not commercial print modeling. So I took some acting lessons, which had not been on my radar at all in my late 40s. Took some improv classes, which I actually took online during the pandemic. And let me tell you, it was my bright spot every Sunday afternoon for 3 hours. I knew I was going to laugh with people who were there to just have fun and learn comedy. And the reason for that is because in commercials, so much of what we do is improvisation. So it's important to know how to switch gears.
It's funny you say that. That was my guilty pleasure during COVID, is I started taking acting lessons and improv because I could, and you could do everything online. It was from like, anywhere. I love the improv, which now being a podcast host, and I do a lot of TV stuff, lifestyle, it's a great, really fun course to take.
Yeah. And you can flip on a dime, which is what you often need to do. So often when I'm auditioning, they'll either say, okay, you came in to audition for A, but can you really just quickly do B? Or it's silent on camera. So give us a scenario. You'll come in with a scenario in your head, but now they'll say, do a different scenario. Well, you got to come up with something on the fly. So improvisation is the best thing that you can do if you want to take up commercial acting.
You touched briefly about your hair.
Yeah.
And I read your blog. Tell the story, because it's so good. And there's so many women, like when I go, I'm still coloring, but I'm very gray. Mm-hmm. And she'll check and she'll be like, oh, you're about that gray. Right. So we need to do a full this time. But tell your story, because your hairdresser was fabulous and kind of held your hand mm-hmm. and took you through each little step to make sure you were okay with it.
Absolutely. So probably when I was 35, I put a post on Facebook. So we're talking 17 years ago. I put a post on Facebook and I said, guys, what would you think if I went gray? Like, I'm thinking this might be a thing. And I have to say that of the 25 people who answered, all but one of them was like, oh, no, don't do it. You're going to regret it. You're going to look old. You're going to hate it. But every time I was a darker brunette. So within a couple of days of coloring, I'd throw my hair back in a ponytail and I'd see these little silver pieces. And I thought, I kind of like that. Like, I disagree. I think it's going to look good. But I took my then hairdresser's valid advice, and she said, don't do it yet. You're too young. You've only got maybe 20%. Wait till you're 50%. And let's have this conversation again in 5 years. And I ended up with a different hairdresser a couple of years later. And I told her my secret guilty pleasure was to go gray. And she said, why not? Let's do it. And I said, no. This is going to be a lot of work. And she said, no, you know what? I think it was late winter. So January, February here in Canada. And she said, here's the deal. How often are you coloring your hair? And I said, like, honestly, I'm buying the bottles of dye, where you mix either 2/3, 3/3, like, to get the 2-5, 3-5 mixture or the half and half. And she said, okay, just buy it one shade lighter. And next time you color your hair, just take a tablespoon of it, because I was using a box over about 4 or 5 months because I was just doing it every couple of weeks. And she said, mix it, put it in, and then next month when you do it, mix a little less, or buy $15 for a box, buy a box that's one shade lighter. And she said, let's have this conversation again right before the hot summer sun hits. And by then you'll be 2 or 3 shades lighter throughout your roots. We'll let the sun do the heavy lifting for us, and it'll bleach out the color that's in there, and you'll be off to the races. So the next question she had for me was, how short do you dare to go? Well, I'd had a pixie before, and I wasn't modeling at this time. So I said, I'm comfortable with a pixie. And she said, amazing. We can do this in 7 or 8 months if you're willing to do that. So sure enough, that's what I did. I went from, I think I was a 2 at the time, like a level 2. So then I started mixing a 2-3, and then a 3, and then a 3-4, and then a 4. And by the time I came to her, I was probably at about a level 5, which meant I had 5 different colors in my roots. But she chopped it off, and she was right. By Christmas of the following year, I only had the barest little bit of color right on my bangs, and everything else was this beautiful salt and pepper. The only problem is when you go into a micro pixie, you do eventually probably want to grow it out. That took about 4 years, because every time I would hit the summer months and find out that I had this wave that just was not cooperating with me, I'd walk in and I'd say, please just chop it back off. And finally, maybe 3 summers in, my hairdresser looked at me and she said, you want long hair. You tell me all the time you want long hair. She took the tiniest ponytail, threw it in my hair, sent me out the door without a charge, and said, go buy yourself some fabulous earrings with the money you saved on not getting a haircut today. I do not want to see you until October. Just wear your hair in this ponytail for the next 3 months and you'll get over this stage. And so I did. I bought some fabulous earrings. Didn't go see her for about 4 months. And sure enough, it was down, the 2 inches that I just couldn't seem to get a handle on. Yeah.
She sounds amazing. They say your hairdresser is like a spouse. I mean, it really, she knows all your secrets. She knows, I'm going to see mine tomorrow morning.
Exactly. Yeah. So once we got past that awkward stage, it was just a matter of letting it grow after that. But I couldn't have done it without that, you can do this conversation.
And so you're probably about 40 then when you went fully gray?
45.
So 45.
42.
Okay.
42. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. 45 when I started modeling.
Mm-hmm. And so that's been 7 years?
Yeah. No, you know what? We're 9 now. Yeah. Because I'll be 52 next month.
Wow.
Yeah. It's been 10 years.
So this is a gig for you. I mean, you've gone right back into, what do your kids think of you modeling?
I think my kids are somewhat nonplussed by the whole thing, but their friends, they send them pictures all the time. Often a lot of the commercials I do are playing during daytime TV. So they're at the gym doing something and I'll get like a blurry screenshot of me on the screen sent to, my son or my daughter, and they're forwarding it to me. Most of them follow me on Instagram. They're my biggest supporters. My kids are like, yeah, whatever, Mom. But their friends think it's amazing.
So funny you say that, because I have a boy and a girl also. Same thing. They could care less.
No.
The only reaction I ever got was about 10 years ago when I was verified on Twitter.
Ooh.
And I did get a ooh for a second.
Well
that was
done,
it.
Mom.
But I'm on TV every single month. I've written books. I've done all of this stuff. I have this podcast. I interview celebrities. Like, they could care less.
Yeah. I love that.
But their friends, I do. Yeah. But their friends are great. Same thing. They're so, Mrs. Daves, I saw you on TV this morning. I was flipping, or my mom had you on, So I'm like, oh, at least somebody loves me.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I know. It's so funny.
So talk about, you are a member of the Silver Sisters, which I am just, since I've started the podcast, I've just learned about this.
Yes.
But what a great community. So share about that.
So it's an unofficial membership. Anyone can join, whether you're silver or thinking of going silver, or you get halfway through and decide it's not for you. No judgment. And I found these ladies when I was doing this 10 years ago. I was looking on Pinterest and I was finding a couple of images of women who had blazed the trails for us. Cindy Joseph and a couple of other ladies like that. But it wasn't mainstream, nor did we have Instagram or anything like that. Or if we did, it was just a baby platform at the time. And so there's this hashtag called Silver Sisters, primarily on Instagram, but you can find some Silver Sisters groups on Facebook too. And we're just a support network for each other. Whether you're starting your journey or you've, completed it. There's even one lady who went completely gray and then said, you know what, guys, I've got enough of a following. I'm going to go back to coloring my hair just so I can show you again how to do this. So there's so many phenomenal women who are supports. And, for the occasional woman who says, this isn't for me, they're welcome back in the community or to stay in the community and just silently watch. And we just use the hashtag Silver Sisters and we support each other. It's an amazing, positive community.
Yeah, I love it. And I've met several of your Silver Sisters through the podcast.
And Silver Misters.
Tell a story. Oh, and Silver Misters.
Yep,
I didn't
can't
know
forget
that.
the Silver Misters.
Okay. No, I will check that out. My husband's turning into a Silver Mister. I might have to tell him about this. But I was watching TV, and a woman that very similar to you started her modeling and acting career in her 50s. Mm-hmm. But there she was on a TV commercial. So I sent her a message. I said, oh, was that you on the Uncommon Goods commercial? She's like, that was me. So funny. And so so great that there are these opportunities at this next stage.
So many opportunities. And, honestly, in the commercial world, typically people have about a 10-year age range, so 5 years on either side. But because my skin is still youthful, but my hair is gray, I actually go from 45 to 65. So I get a 20-year range. And who's watching commercials now? It's not the kids. The kids are all on the streaming platforms. It's people our age. So many commercials are geared towards the folks that are still watching sports on TV, or the people who are watching daytime TV. So it's kind of neat. I have a lot of friends who are younger than me. I seem to really attract a younger age group as a mentor, and they're constantly giving me, the number of auditions they do. And I have to say, I probably do 4 to 5 times that much just because we're so busy in this age range. Wow. And there's less of us. There's just less people who have gotten into the game at this later stage. They've left it to raise their families. Right. But there's room for everyone, and it's a lot of fun.
So what kind of products, companies are you working with? I always joke, the demographic is, they're targeting the 24-year-old. And I don't know if it's your son or your daughter, but I'm like, my 24-year-old really doesn't have money for those products.
Definitely.
And if she wants that, she's calling me or putting it on her holiday list.
Yeah.
So who has figured it out? Who are you working with?
Do you know what? Honestly, I feel like everybody has figured it out. The one thing I love about the commercial world is there is room for everyone. When I say that I have seen breakdowns for people looking for a 14-year-old boy with one leg, there's seriously somebody out there who wants that person for their job. They've got something specific in mind and they want that person. So for me, it's a lot of household products, a lot of foods. Banking is huge. Pharmaceuticals are huge. But really anything, I do probably anywhere from 5 to 7 auditions a week. And this week alone, I've probably done, I can tell you that I did a soft drink audition, financial services, insurance, at least one pharmaceutical, a food. And sometimes I don't know what it is that I'm doing because it'll just be project food. And you don't actually know what it is you're auditioning for until you get past the callback stage and actually book the job. So I must admit that unless they actually tell me what the product is, like I did a paint commercial and they actually gave the name of the box store the other day, but typically I wouldn't even know what I'm auditioning for. But I can tell you it's those kinds of things. And it's global. There's times where I get called in and I'm like, I can't be the right person for this. It doesn't seem like it would fit my demographic. And then I get a call back for it. I might not book it, but they obviously saw something in me that made them think that I might be the right person for the job.
Wow. And where are you located now?
I'm in Toronto, but honestly, I'm amazed at the number of American advertisers who come up north to look for talent. Last December, I spent a week in Mexico City shooting a commercial, which was kind of fun.
How fun.
Yeah, I can be based out of Toronto, but they'll send us just about anywhere. It's kind of cool.
What was that in Mexico City?
It was actually a supplements commercial. It's still airing. You might see me on, I hear a lot about CNN and a couple of the other news networks. So you can watch and maybe spot me on a 15-second supplement commercial. But yeah, we spent 5 days. You got to get there early, make sure you get there on time, and the fitting and the rehearsals and whatnot. It was a lot of fun. And something I did not expect to be doing in my 50s. I thought I gave that all up at 21.
Yeah, you had me excited. I told you I took those classes. I'm like, maybe I should look into this now as another thing to add.
Do you know what? There's room. I tell that to everyone. There is room for everyone because commercials represent all sorts of people. It's such an inclusive environment. There's probably 5 or 6 women that I audition alongside, and we all have gray hair, but one has blue eyes, and you can tell she used to be a blonde because she has a lighter base color, and curly hair. She books a job that I don't book. There's another lady who we get mistaken for sisters all the time, but she has freckles, and she's actually Innu, like from northern Canada. So she's got a bit of a different look than I do. And it doesn't mean that I can't be happy for them. If somebody's looking for that curly, blonde, hair-based person, they're not looking for me. And it's not a reflection that I did a poor job. They're just looking to maybe build a family that looks a little more like her skin tone. My friend with the freckles, she'll get called for Sephora because she's got that unique beauty. So there's room for everyone. And it doesn't mean I'm missing out. It means that job was meant for them. It's such an inclusive environment.
It's so great you're saying that too. I feel that women over 50 have that mentality, have that mindset of, I gotta know. It's all right. It's not the end of the world. I'll get another audition. I'll get another callback. I mean, I have had no's that have brought me to tears, like things I really was looking forward to. Yeah. But we're pretty good at bouncing back, and I mean, you've been working for 10 years, so you know that the one no was not, and be able to embrace the fact that, like you just said, Sephora wants her because she's got that unique look with the freckles. She's different. Exactly.
And honestly, in this industry, I hear no 90% of the time. And that's a great stat. If you can book 10% of the jobs that you're auditioning for, you're having a great career. But that means I get 90, 95% no's and I'm still successful. So it builds a thick skin and it teaches you that, yeah, these other jobs might not be the right fit for you, but the ones that are yours are yours. So there's a lane for everyone in this industry. And it's so much fun.
How many auditions do you go on in a year, do you think?
It's building every year. Since we went into a virtual environment during the pandemic, and all of my first round auditions are done by self-tape, actually against this wall behind me. And then I get brought in for a callback if they like what they see, and they'll bring maybe 10 people in for a callback. But I keep stats because I'm an accountant in my real life. And I think I'm at 162 right now. And we're recording this at the end of November. So I'm going to probably break the 170, 175 barrier this year. The last 2 years before that, maybe 130 per year. That's a lot though. Like that's every couple of days I'm pulling up this wall here, or pulling up in front of the wall stays.
Yeah, but if you know what you're doing, it's kind of like the podcast. I spend a little bit of time preparing. Obviously, I do some homework so we can have these great conversations. Yeah. I can't come in completely blind, but it gets to be muscle memory of you know how to do what you need to do. You know how to set your lighting. Yeah. You know you've got your script, and you give them what they want, and obviously you're good at it.
Exactly. Hi, my name is Dawnolyn. I'm 5'9", and then you just go from there.
Wow. Okay. What's your absolute favorite commercial you've done so far?
Well, I have to say the supplements, because it took me away from cold Canada for 5 days to Mexico City last year. So that was pretty cool. But honestly, it's not the jobs that I book, it's the callbacks that I get, because every time I'm in the room, I'm running into somebody that I know that I've either worked with or we've done callbacks together. And honestly, it's hard to pick jobs. I mean, I do a morning show that I model on. I find that to be just as much fun as going to Mexico City, because I am surrounded by such a supportive, amazing group of people. So it's hard to say, but it's everything that has to do with the people that I end up running into when I'm doing this, if that makes sense.
Yeah. You have such a great positive attitude, such a great outlook, and inspiring for, we have a lot of people who are listening and watching who, what is this next chapter? Mm-hmm. And I love when I bring people like you on, who basically, it can be anything you want. You can get into acting, modeling. Yeah. Who would have ever thought? I had a woman on, it's the Sun City Palms, and they actually did a movie about them. So they're not officially cheerleaders. They're pom-pom dancers.
Love it.
But you have to be over 60. So she was in her 80s. And I'm like, wait, I tried out for pom-poms and didn't make it. So there is hope for me that in my 60s, I could get this back. So that's what I love about bringing women like you on, that anything is possible.
Well, and you know what? The one thing I love about the commercial industry is the more authentic you are, the better it plays on TV. So, you don't need, and it's personal choice. If you love Botox and fillers, fill your boots. But for commercials, you need to be able to express and emote. So I need to be able to use my full range of facial expressions. So I love that it's an authentic platform for me.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that. I'm a middle of the road girl. So I did start doing a little bit of Botox, but I've always told them, and you'll see, I still have wrinkles, that I can't do the full smooth because I do this. I'm on TV. You have to see my emotions, or it doesn't do me any good to be a lifestyle expert if I'm too stiff.
Exactly. And you don't have to be a size 2 in this industry. One of my favorite women that I work with all the time is probably a size 14, maybe even a 16. And she books all the time. So they're looking for representation.
She's real.
Yes. And has an amazing personality. And is gorgeous. Yeah. But you can be gorgeous.
Well, what's the average size of a woman? Isn't it a size 12?
Probably.
12 maybe or 14 even a 14.
Is the
across the board.
So why not represent women who are 12 or 14, size 12 or 14? It's great.
Again, it's the real, authentic. Oh my gosh, I just love it. Okay, so what is the greatest thing that you have accomplished since you turned 50?
Since I turned 50, oh my goodness. You know what? I'm going to tell you this. I hope it doesn't sound selfish, but we have, as a military family, gone across Canada. I have followed my husband on his career, and he's getting ready to retire. And as such, he's entitled to one final posting. So he actually looked at me and said, this posting is yours. What do you want to do? We knew the kids weren't coming home. We were living in a little city about 3 hours east of Toronto called Kingston, which is gorgeous if you ever get the chance to go. It's about 2 hours north of Syracuse. Had a beautiful home there, 5 bedrooms, beautiful community, but we knew our kids weren't coming back. And so I said to him, what do you think about selling and moving closer to Toronto? Because I am in and out of Toronto for callbacks and fittings and bookings all the time. And he said, you know what? That seems like a pretty cool idea. So we very bravely sold our 3,200 2-level square foot home. We have downsized into a 2+1, so 2-bedroom plus den, 804. I insist on telling people there's that extra 4 feet condo. It overlooks the beautiful Toronto skyline, and it is something that I never thought that we would be brave enough to do, getting rid of probably 90% of what we owned, because even the furniture that we had didn't fit in this space because it's a smaller footprint. And we're starting fresh. We've got room for both kids. In fact, we've got room, 2 queen size pullouts so that when they come, they've got room, space, and grace to be away from us. But yeah, it's been such a life changer and so much fun.
I love it. Well, you went all in on empty nest, girl.
We really did.
It's like, okay, we're retiring, and boom, here we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with a quarter of the closet space too.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Hopefully still doing this and having fun. The best part about going gray is it's ever changing. So, even when I started, I was 50%. Now I'm probably closer to 65 or 70, and it just keeps getting better and better. I cannot wait to be fully white, and hopefully still doing this and having fun and traveling, staying healthy, whatever that looks like for my body. Does not mean a size 6 or a size 8, I can tell you that. But just having fun.
You have such a great positive outlook on everything.
Oh, thank you.
And everybody listening, watching, share this episode. If you have somebody who's not sure what they're going to do now, the kids are gone, empty nest, follow Lori because you
have fun.
Yeah, right. Find something you love and do that. And I know your kids are my kids' age, and as they're looking at careers and jobs, and we're like, do what you love, the money will come.
Yes, absolutely.
Find things. And my daughter loves her job, and she started out not making a lot of money, and all her friends have quit their jobs and they've been miserable. And they're like, oh, Megan wakes up every morning and she's happy. Yeah. And she loves going to work. And the money's coming now that, she stuck it out. She's very good at what she does. And our son just took a new job, and it's different than what he did before. And we told him but he's so excited. It's his dream job. So we're like, you have to take it.
That's amazing.
You have to go for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because then you live a life like you do, where you're happy and it exudes as we're talking, and you just have joy and you glow.
Oh, you know what? I think part of that's being a military spouse too. And we've seen a lot of friends who have gone overseas and not come back. So in our family, we don't sweat the small things. And we know that we are very lucky to be where we are and intact. So I think that comes from a very, very much a place of gratitude and mindfulness that not everybody was given the same opportunities that we've been given.
You are amazing. Thank you for joining me today, sharing you with my audience. Really just inspiring. So thank you.
It was so much fun. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening or for watching this episode of Living Ageless and Bold. If you haven't already, please make sure you hit subscribe. And if you like the episode, I hope that you will give us a great review. You can also head over to livingagelessandbold.com and sign up for information, inspiration, and exclusive opportunities for us, women over 55. Thanks for listening. And remember, no matter what you do, keep living ageless and bold.